Not all heroes wear crowns. Some wear torn clothes, carry tired bodies, and walk through life unseen. Yet, they carry destinies on their backs. In a quiet rural village called Obinwa, life moves slowly, while pain moves fast. Dreams are often buried before they are born. Children grow up learning survival before learning hope. And fathers here learn how to sacrifice before they learn how to rest. This is the world of Pa David, a man who has nothing except a son. No wealth, no land, no comfort, just love. And that love becomes his greatest strength and his deepest pain. Every sunrise for David is a reminder that he must try again, even when yesterday broke him. Every night is a reminder that hunger is normal, but giving up is not an option. Because in his heart, one belief keeps him alive. If I suffer today, my son will not suffer tomorrow. This is not a story of miracles. It's a story of endurance, of silent tears, of sacrifices that are never applauded, of a father whose love is so deep that it destroys him slowly, yet builds a future he may never live to enjoy. And as you watch the story unfold, remember, sometimes the greatest sacrifice is not dying for someone, it's living in pain every single day so someone else can have a life. Before we continue, welcome to KC Production, your home for premium African storytelling and entertainment. Now please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to KCA Production for more amazing content and storytelling. Inside a small mud house, Pa David is inside. There is no bed frame, only a thin mat spread on the floor. A small pot sits in the corner, almost empty. David rises quietly, careful not to wake his son Michael. He pauses beside the boy. Michael sleeps peacefully, hugging a torn pillow. His face looks innocent, untouched by the hardship surrounding him. David watches him for a long moment. A faint smile appears on his tired face. One day, you will not wake up to this kind of life, whispered David. He gently covers Michael with an old wrapper cloth and steps outside. The morning air is cold. His bones ache as he stretches his back. Without breakfast, without complaint, he picks up his farming tools and begins his walk to the farm. Along the way, villagers are already active. Women carrying baskets, men repairing tools, children running barefoot. One man shakes his head as David passes. That man never rests. Does he even eat like the rest of us? David hears it but does not respond. At the farm, he walks under the rising sun. The soil is hard and dry. Each strike of his cutlass feels heavier than the last. Sweat pours down his face, soaking his clothes. His stomach growls painfully. But he continues. Hours pass, and by evening, he carries firewood on his back. The weight bends him slightly, while he walks steadily home. Because to David, pain is normal, but giving up is not. Morning sunlight fills the small village school. The classroom is old, with cracked walls and wooden benches that creak each time a child moves. Yet, inside this fragile building, hope still exists. Michael sits in the front row. Unlike most children who struggle to focus, he listens carefully, his eyes sharp and curious. The teacher writes a question on the board. Michael raises his hand immediately. He answers correctly, confidently, and clearly. The classroom goes quiet for a moment. before the teacher smiles proudly. This boy will go far if given the chance. After class, the teacher calls Michael aside. You are a very intelligent boy. Have you ever thought of studying outside this village? Michael hesitates, then smiles. I want to become someone important, so my father would never suffer again. The teacher looks touched but worried. Later that afternoon, the headmaster visits Pa David's home. David welcomes him nervously, wiping his dusty hands with his worn-out clothes. Inside the house, there is barely furniture. The headmaster sits carefully. Your son is gifted, but this village cannot contain his future. He needs city education, he tells Pa David. David feels his heart tighten. City education means money. Money that he does not have. That night, David sits outside under the moon. Silence around him. If I cannot give him food, I will give him a future, he said to himself. The next day, villagers watch in shock as David sells his only inherited land. People gather around him, shouting, "You are destroying your future." But David does not argue. He only says, "My son is my future." The village motor park is loud and chaotic. Buses honk, traders shout, people hug, argue, depart. Dust fills the air. Michael stands with a small bag beside him. It contains a few clothes, books, and hope. Pa David stands in front of him silently, holding a neatly folded shirt and a small envelope filled with everything he has left. His hand shakes slightly. This is not much, but it's everything I have. Michael's eyes are watery. Papa, I don't want to leave you alone. David forces a smile, though his heart is breaking. A bird cannot learn to fly in the nest forever. He places both hands on Michael's shoulders, and for a moment, time slows down. The sound of the bus engine grows louder. Michael steps towards the bus, then suddenly turns back and hugs his father tightly. David holds him firmly, as if trying to memorize the moment forever. Be strong, even when I am not there. Michael boards the bus after those last words from his father. The engine roars. The bus begins to move. Through the window, Michael watches his father standing still, waving gently. David keeps waving. Even when the bus disappears, he does not move, because part of him just left with it. The city is loud, fast, and overwhelming. Tall buildings replace trees, cars replace footsteps. Everything feels new to Michael. At first, he struggles. He misses home. He calls his father often, describing small details of his life. But slowly, the city changes him. He makes new friends who speak with confidence and pride. They wear expensive clothes, laugh loudly, and mock rural life. You still talk like a village boy? They laugh. Michael laughs too, but inside something bothers him. Days turn into months. Calls from David continue. Each time, David asks the same gentle questions. How are you eating? Are you okay? Do you need anything? But Michael becomes distant. One evening, David calls again from a borrowed phone. My son, I miss you. Michael looks around at his friends. He lowers his voice. Papa, I'm busy. I'll call you later. He ends the call abruptly. Silence. On the other end, David remains holding the phone. He does not cry, just sits quietly and stares at the night sky. Night falls in the city. Michael is suddenly struck with severe pain in his chest and abdomen. He collapses in his apartment. Friends rush him to the hospital. White lights, fast footsteps, emergency voices. Doctors examine him urgently. He needs surgery immediately. If not, he may not survive. Michael panics. He reaches for his phone. No money, no support, no friends respond. For the first time, fear becomes real. Far away in the village, David receives the news. He does not hesitate. He takes his one bag and begins traveling immediately. Hours later, he arrives in the city, exhausted, dusty, but determined. He runs from hospital to hospital begging, "Please save my son, I will pay somehow." No one listens. Time is running out. Finally, David makes a decision that breaks him completely. He sells his small house in the village, the last thing he owns. When Michael wakes after surgery, he asks weakly, "Who paid for me?" A nurse hands him the document. He reads them. His hands begin to shake. It's his father's name, and the cost was everything. The hospital room is quiet now. Machines beep softly, marking life returning slowly to Michael's fragile body. White curtains move slightly as air flows through the room. Sunlight enters gently, but Michael feels no peace. He opens his eyes weakly, still recovering from surgery. His head is heavy, his body weak, but his mind is alert enough to ask one question: who paid for my treatment? A nurse standing beside him hesitates. She looks down at a brown file in her hands. Slowly, she places it on its bed. Michael's trembling fingers reach for it. As he opens the document, his eyes scan the details. Name, signature, payment records. Then he sees it. Pa David. Everything goes silent in his ears. The room begins to feel distant, like the walls are moving away from him. His breathing becomes unstable. His hands shake violently as realization sinks in. His father did not just help him, he gave everything. The house gone, his savings gone, his stability gone, and all for him. Tears begin to fall uncontrollably from Michael's eyes. For the first time since leaving the village, he is not the confident city student. He is just a son, overwhelmed by guilt. No, Papa, what have I done? He tries to sit up but fails, falling back into the bed as emotions overpower his weak body. A flashback hits his mind. His father, smiling in the village, standing in the rain, waving as the bus left. But now, that same father has nothing left. Michael covers his face with both hands and cries silently, his shoulders shaking. Outside the room, life continues. But inside, his son is realizing too late what true love really costs. Night falls over the city hospital. The lights outside glow softly, reflecting on wet pavement from recent rain. The air is cold, heavy, almost symbolic of Michael's heart. He cannot rest. Even though his body is still weak from surgery, Michael forces himself out of the hospital bed. He removes the IV line slowly, ignoring the pain. His mind is focused on one thing only: his father. He must find him. He walks out of the hospital in a shaky state, wearing thin hospital clothing under a light jacket. Every step feels difficult, but regret pushes him forward. He begins searching through the city streets. Every face he sees reminds him of his mistake. Every sound echoes his father's voice. Hours pass. The city becomes darker. Street lights flicker. People pass without noticing him. Finally, Michael reaches a quiet area near an old church. The rain has started again, light but persistent. And there he sees something. A man lying on a wooden bench outside the church, soaked slightly by the rain, curled up, exhausted. Michael freezes. Slowly, he walks closer. As he gets near, his heart drops. It is his father, Pa David, sleeping on the bench. No proper shelter, no comfort, no home. Michael falls to his knees instantly, crying, "Papa." David slowly opens his eyes, even in exhaustion, even in pain. His expression softens when he sees his son. A faint smile appears. "You are awake," David says weakly. Michael breaks down completely, grabbing his father's hand. "Forgive me, I didn't know." David gently places his hand on Michael's head. Despite everything he has lost, his voice is calm. "I never stopped loving you, my son." Rain continues to fall shortly as father and son sit together in silence, one broken by regrets, and the other sustained by love. Morning arrives slowly over the city, but there is no peace in the atmosphere around the old church area, where David and Michael had reunited the night before. The rain has stopped, but the ground is still wet, reflecting the dull grey sky. Michael is still holding his father's hand when David suddenly coughs softly. At first, it seems normal, just exhaustion from sleeping outside in harsh conditions. But then the coughing becomes heavier, deeper, more painful. Michael looks up immediately. "Papa, are you okay?" David tries to smile, but his body betrays him. His chest rises unevenly. His breathing becomes slow and strained. He places a hand on his chest, trying to steady himself. "I'm fine, don't worry about me," David said in a weak voice. But even as he says it, his strength begins to fade. Michael notices something he ignored before. How thin his father has become. How pale his face looks. How deeply tired his eyes are. This is not just hunger or stress. This is something worse. Suddenly, David tries his hand, but staggers slightly. Michael quickly supports him. "Papa, please sit down," Michael says. They sit together on the wooden bench again. But this time, David's body trembles uncontrollably. He closes his eyes for a moment, as if fighting something inside him. A painful silence passes between them. Then, David speaks slowly. "My son, I have been tired for a long time." Michael shakes his head immediately. "No, Papa. We will go to the hospital again. You need rest. You sacrifice everything for me. Now, let me take care of you." David looks at him gently, with eyes full of love and something deeper, acceptance. "You already have taken care of me by surviving. Michael begins to cry again. But suddenly, David coughs violently, and this time, much stronger. Blood stains his hands. Michael freezes. Papa! Papa! He tries to stand, but David raises a weak hand to stop him. Don't panic. Listen to me. Michael shakes his head, refusing to accept what he's seeing, refusing to accept the fate of his father. David breathes slowly, gathering what little strength remains. I have been sick for a long time. I didn't tell you because you had your future to build. I didn't want to become another burden. Michael's world collapsed instantly. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you suffer all alone? David smiles faintly, even through pain. Because the father's job is not to be understood, it is to protect. A tear rolls down Michael's face. David's breathing slows further. His body weakens. I don't regret anything. Not the land, not the house, not the hungry days. He pauses. I only regret that I may not see who you become. Michael holds him tightly. Don't leave me, Papa. Please. I just found you again. David places his hand gently on Michael's cheek. His voice becomes barely audible. You never lost me. A long silence follows. Then his hand slowly loses strength. His eyes begin to close. Michael shakes him repeatedly. Papa, Papa, stay with me. But David's body becomes still. The world around them seems to stop. A street vendor in the distance continues shouting, unaware of what just happened. But for Michael, everything has ended. He holds his father's lifeless body close and cries uncontrollably. For the first time, there is no answer. Only silence, only sacrifice, only loss. The village is quiet on the day of David's return. Not as a living man, but as a body wrapped in white cloth. The same village where he once struggled to survive now gathers to witness his final journey. News has spread quickly. Pa David, the man who gave everything for his son, is dead. The funeral atmosphere is heavy. Women cry softly in corners. Men shake their heads in disbelief. Children watch silently, not fully understanding, but feeling the sadness in the air. Michael walks behind the simple wooden coffin, his face empty, broken beyond recognition. The confident city boy is gone. What remains is only a son who realized too late what love truly meant. As the procession moves through the village path, villagers begin to whisper, that man never lived for himself. He sold everything for that boy, another said. And another said, and still died with nothing. Each word cuts deeper into Michael's heart. At the burial ground, the coffin is placed carefully into the earth. The sky is grey again, as if nature itself is mourning. The pastor begins to speak, but Michael hears none of it clearly. His ears ring with memories. His father walking to the farm, his father lying hungry, his father smiling despite pain, his father alone on a bench in the rain. All of it comes rushing at once. Then silence falls. It is time for final words. Michael slowly steps forward, his legs shake. His hands tremble. He stands before the crowd, staring at the grave that will hold his father forever. He tries to speak, but nothing comes out at first. Then suddenly, tears fall again. My father, he was not a rich man. He had no land, no house, no comfort, but he gave me everything he had, and even things he didn't have. The crowd became silent. Michael kneels beside the grave. Crying deeply, I was blind. I became proud. I was foolish. He places his hand on the soil. You suffered in silence while I lived in noise. I promise you today, I will not waste what you died for. He bows his head fully. The wind blows gently through the trees as if responding. As the grave is covered slowly with soil, Michael remains kneeling, refusing to move. The coffin disappears beneath the ground, and with it, a lifetime of sacrifice is laid to rest. The villagers begin to leave slowly, one by one, but Michael stays, even after everyone is gone, even after the sun begins to set, because for him, this is not just a burial, it is the moment he finally understands love, too late to return it. Time does not stop after pain, it only changes form. Months after Pa David's burial, the village of Obinwa has slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Children playing in dusty paths, women going to the stream, men working on farms. For Michael, nothing is normal anymore. He has remained in the village since the funeral. The city no longer calls him back. The friends he once laughed with no longer matter. Wealth, pride, and status feel empty now. Every morning he wakes up in silence, remembering the man who once gave him everything. One early morning, Michael walks alone to his father's grave. The grass around it has started to grow. Nature is slowly healing the ground, but not his heart. Papa, I'm still here. He kneels down, places a small flower on the grave, the first one since the burial. I finally understand what you tried to teach me, but I learnt it a little too late. The wind moves gently through the trees. It feels almost like a response. Michael closes his eyes and memories flood back again. His father walking under the sun, skipping meals, selling land, sleeping outside, smiling through pain. Each memory is a wound, but also a lesson. Michael opens his eyes slowly. A change begins in him. Months later, the village begins to transform. Michael uses everything he has left, what little money he saved from city, and begins building something new. At first, people doubt him. He's wasting his time, one villager said, but Michael continues anyway. He builds a small school building on donated land. At the entrance, a wooden sign is placed, Pa David Memorial School. Children gather curiously, some barefoot, some poor, some with dreams they cannot yet explain. Michael stands before them for the first time as a teacher, not a son of wealth, but a son of sacrifice. He speaks slowly. My father never became rich, but he made me rich in understanding. The children listened quietly. He gave me education by giving up his life, and now I give you education in his name. For the first time in a long time, Michael smiles, not from pride, but from purpose. The village begins to change. Children who once had no hope began to study. Parents begin to believe again. The school becomes a symbol of sacrifice turned into legacy. One evening, after classes, Michael walks alone again to his father's grave. He kneels. You are still building through me, Papa. A tear falls, but this time it's different. Not just pain, but gratitude. I will make sure your sacrifice lives longer than your suffering. The camera slowly pulls back, showing the grave, the school, the village, all connected through one story. A father who had nothing, a son who almost lost everything, and a legacy that now gives life to many. In life, we often measure success by what we gain: money, status, recognition, and comfort. But there are people whose greatest success is not what they gain, but what they sacrifice. But David was not a rich man. Did not own luxury, did not wear the finest of clothes. He did not live to see fame or recognition, but he carried something far greater than wealth: unconditional love. A love that wakes up before sunrise, a love that goes to bed hungry so another can eat, a love that sells land, loses shelter, and walks in silence just so a child can walk in light. Many people think greatness is loud, but sometimes greatness is silent. Sometimes greatness looks like a father smiling while hiding pain, and sometimes greatness dies unnoticed until it's too late to thank it. Michael learned the lesson the hardest way. He chased success, chased acceptance, chased the life that made him forget the very person who made his life possible. But in the end, he discovered something the world often ignores. A parent's sacrifice is the foundation of a child's future. And when that foundation is ignored, everything built in it begins to shake. This story is not just about Pa David. It's about every father and mother who suffer quietly for their children. It's about every child who forgets the hands that lifted them. It's about love that gives everything and expects nothing. Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe to KCA Production for more amazing content and entertainment.